he asked me, why are you hustling so much? And I answered him instinctively without thinking. And I said, fear. I right away said fear. I said, I'm scared that my kids are going to grow up the way that I grew up. I'm scared that I'm going to slip back to that lifestyle. And I can't ever let up. I can't sleep for a minute because I might. And that fear is a driver, but it's a very unhealthy driver. It's a more powerful driver than love and joy and the positive side of motivation, but it'll burn you out.
Welcome to the From Within podcast with Ben Osterveld.
Hey guys, welcome to Business from Within. I've got a really special guest, Mr. Wayne Burke, on the show. Thanks, Wayne, for jumping on with me. Truly appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks, Ben, for having me.
So Wayne is a founder of two really cool companies. One is Dominion New Energy, and the other one is Link Energy. He's a huge thinker. He's got a bigger heart than I've ever seen. He's got a law degree from McGill University. I looked online. Looks like you passed the New York State bar. And the thing is, I've known Wayne for a while. And the one thing I know is he's really, really about helping people. He's got a massive give back. He's got a very, very smart, strategic mind, but he never, ever sacrifices people. And I feel like there's something that we don't want to talk about. There's a lot of story behind that. You've done some amazing things. You got people working for you all over the world and internationally and all over North America, hundreds of people. Your origin story is really where I want to start at. I want to hear, how the heck did you hit this level of where you're at today? And where did it all begin? And you obviously had a silver spoon in your mouth. So let's just hear all about that.
Yeah. It was a little rusty though. So
nice.
If we go all the way back, I'm born in Montreal, Canada. And I grew up in and around a kind of a low income, middle income neighborhood. And I think that part of the story is really important because it informs obviously who I am. And so my parents, did their absolute darndest. That's often just not enough. And so life was pretty challenging in the early years. And I say that with all the respect I can for my parents, doing everything they could. But it meant understanding what it was to have a bailiff at the door looking to seize your property and running upstairs to hide my 13-inch TV under my dirty clothes because he wouldn't look there. It meant understanding how to, bang on the neighbor's door to get him to plug in a power extension cord for a month or two to keep the fridge lit up. So when the power bills got cut, which is ironic when we'll get to what I do today. I sell a lot of power and we try to give away a lot of power.
That is a great connection. I know the story anyways.
Isn't it? Yeah, I know. And
it's actually really great. I love that.
Yeah. And he was kind of an angel in my life. There were so many angels in my life. I've been very, very, very blessed with a lot of different, synchronistic, interactions along the way that just were totally life-changing in a positive sense. Food, clothes, that kind of stuff. We were missing, basically everything. So what do you get from that? What the positive that comes out of it is resourcefulness. I was very, very lucky to learn to be resourceful at a very young age. At first, where I was, so we're going to go deep. We're going to go from within. I'm going to tell you the truth in a public setting. Beautiful. Or what will be a public setting for the first time in my life. The first entrepreneurial opportunity I pursued was stealing, weed from the family home and selling it at school. That was what was available to me. I needed money for food, for socks, for underwear, and to try to change my life circumstances. And it wasn't just that, at the same time I was buying boxes of Gucci belts from the gas station guy, and selling those at school, one for 32 for 40, going around the school. Had a couple guys selling them for me, and it continued. So the hustle was always there. It kind of continued to evolve.
So cool.
The first real business I ever had was called Washes on Wheels. So I got a car at 17, and I always had 2-3 jobs, and I was always trying to do 2-3 different businesses, sell something. And so Washes on Wheels was actually my buddy's idea, my buddy Samson. He said, look, I've got a vacuum. You've got a car. Let's put some flyers out and wash people's cars in their driveway. $20. great. So this really actually took off. And within a month and a half, customers were noticing our work ethic, and they said, hey, can you wash the windows too? And could you maybe paint the fence? And can you build
that's going to cost you more.
I had to go, Ben, I had to rebrand my business. Within 6 weeks, I had to go through my first ever rebranding. I don't know if I ever told you this.
No, let's hear it. This is great.
No? Oh, so it's quite funny. There's a guy that runs my customer service department right now. Wonderful guy I've worked with in many ways over the years. He actually worked for this first business of mine when we were both 17. He brought in the business card just like 2 months ago. And so I have a picture of it. I don't know how well this will work. But
no way.
We do it all.
We do it all. Wayne Burke. There's only one number to call. We do it all. Carpentry, painting, landscape. Man, you expanded fast. You went right to carpentry, painting, landscaping. There's no 78027. Like, it's 7 numbers. You're old, Wayne.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm old. That's almost 20 years old, man.
That's amazing. That's pre-area code.
Yeah, 18-year-old business card. Real flimsy paper, too. I didn't put much into cardstock. Awesome. But yeah, so that was kind of, there's the origin, and I'm chugging along. Wow. Sports was a big part of my life, too. I'm playing sports throughout that time, mostly football. And that taught me a lot. My father coached. My father, I have 2 fathers. I'm lucky enough to have 2 fathers. My parents got divorced when I was 2 years old. My stepfather was a good-looking guy that was much younger than my mom and lived upstairs from us. And he was like a football jock, and he probably should have played pro or semi-pro ball. But instead he fell in love with my mom. He started out being my babysitter, ended up being my dad. And he instilled a lot of different things into me. My father also taught me a lot of different things, and my mother as well. But, we're kind of a composite of our parents. And in my case, especially also my paternal grandmother. But yeah, football was a big piece. It taught me work ethic, taught me literally how to get knocked down and get back up. And my dad always said that if the kids are at practice, they're not out on the street doing other stuff. And so I coach now. I have the honor of coaching kids 12 and 13 today, and in the same exact community where I grew up, where he coached his whole life. And so that's kind of the early day stuff. And then do you want me to keep going chronologically, or you want to stop there?
Man, it's so good. Like, it's so cool. I haven't even had the chance of hearing this myself, and I've known you for a while. That's really, really cool. I think definitely let's hear how it turned into you running this massive national energy company. Like, where did you just started? Obviously you've had the grit of life, and you've had to figure things out on your own. You've obviously a natural into, I got to sell something to make money. And in the weird way, I sure relate to you, because what we overcome, we become strong in, right? It becomes something. I think overcoming is one of the most beautiful things that we have to do in our life, because it really makes us who we are and makes us grit. Like, I can look at you and I can say something that's not true to you. You look at me and go, yeah, whatever, buddy. You have no freaking clue. And there's that sense of inner confidence that comes. So I totally see that in you. And I think it really makes sense of why you become successful, because you haven't let that, like, have you let that past life tear you down ever? Like, has there been a time where that was more of a baggage, or you just said, I'm going to learn from it and move on?
You know what? Actually, that's the easy answer is no, but I think the truth is actually different than that. So, in recent years, I've engaged in a lot of personal development, starting on a path, reading has always been a big piece for me. So I've read everything Tony Robbins ever wrote. And then I just kind of evolved into a whole bunch of other different thinkers. And then I kind of came back around to Tony again in recent years, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I was putting together a list of required reading for sales managers. And I thought of the books I've read in early days. So I thought about, Dale Carnegie stuff. I thought about Norman Vincent Peale, Maxwell Maltz, Napoleon Hill, Maxwell Maltz, Psycho-Cybernetics, a little known book, but that one is a real good one. And I started putting these things down, Zig Ziglar, obviously. And I said, Tony Robbins is kind of cheesy. I don't know if I really want to put Tony on the list. People are going to not be into it. But I hesitated, and I reread
3, 5, 6 years ago, it was like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I reread it. I said, okay, I'll give it a chance. I'll reread it. And wow, I was like, a lot of the ideas I thought were mine were Tony's. So we decided we decided we would put on the list. More than that, we brought a bunch of people to his entry level kind of event, UPW. Unleash the Power Within. And that started me on a journey, thanks to a good brother of mine, friend of ours, Charles Lau, sitting next to me. You know, they do the pitch on Mastery University. It's a whole bunch of money. I'm sitting there. I want to do it, but I'm hesitating. And Charles just charges. So Charles does that a lot, and he's been a great influence.
Love that guy. Love that guy.
It's all about who you surround yourself with. And Charles charged up the stage and he grabbed me and he said, "We're doing this." So we got to do, you know, courses with Tony and his team in Fiji and Las Vegas and Florida. We did, you know, Date with Destiny, Wealth Mastery, Business Mastery. I'm coming back around to your question. So personal development, where it got to, the bigger, scarier step was personal therapy, engaging with psychotherapy. And I'm a big advocate of this.
Yeah, me too.
The way I describe this to friends and loved ones and teammates is, listen, if you were trying to win an Olympic gold medal, would you hire a coach?
Of course. Yeah.
You would probably hire 7 coaches, a nutritionist, exactly. a strength trainer, a speed trainer, everything you could afford to try to win. Well, we're playing the game of business, and even more importantly, we're playing the game called life. And that game is won with your heart and your mind. And you're going to tell me you want to be the top performer, the top dad, the top mom, the top CEO, the top, you know, motivational speaker, the top educator. Any of those games are heart and mind games. And so how are you going to hit the top of your game if you don't have a coach? So I kind of, you know, use that analogy to try to destigmatize this, but this has been the biggest life changer for me. Another entrepreneur, a friend of mine, saw me in a tough point and he introduced me to someone and it changed my life. So Tony definitely changed my life, but I'm coming all the way back around to your question. So were you ever dragged down by your past? Yes, I was. I had a victim mentality about this stuff. I had a chip on my shoulder, and a very close friend of mine, Matt, once asked me, "Wayne, why do you keep hustling so much?" At the time, I was building our second business and finishing my law degree all at the same time. And I was just like, go, go, go. And he asked me, "Why are you hustling so much?" And I answered him instinctively without thinking. And I said, fear. I right away said fear. I said, I'm scared that my kids are going to grow up the way that I grew up. I'm scared that I'm going to slip back to that lifestyle. And I can't ever let up. I can't sleep for a minute because I might. And that fear is a driver, but it's a very unhealthy driver. It's a more powerful driver than love and joy and the positive side of motivation, but it'll burn you out, and it's joyless, right? It's so, you know, the stuff really well, but you know, so that's been the process in recent years, is try to let go of the fear, take what's good from that story, the resilience, the creative problem solving, the focus on relationships, the angels in my life over the period that have, you know, really turned it around for me. And then remember that I have that responsibility to, you know, each one teach one and lift others up too, because people did it for me. So keep all the good stuff and let go of the fear.
It's beautiful, man. I love the honesty. I think that's why I like you so much, Wayne. It's like you just stop, you take a second and go, is that really true what I'm saying? And I think it's something that, man, when I'm working with someone, it's always the question. I'm like, they're like, oh, this is what it is. And they're like, is that really true? And they're like, not really. Well, then what are we living? What are we doing? Like,
why are we even
we're following some dialogue in our head that we want to, who knows, protect ourselves. There's 50 reasons why we don't want to be truthful. And what I'm seeing here today in this call is this, like, when I ask a question, you have that answer, but then you're like, you know what, let me just check in on that. Let me just check. Is that really true? And I have mass respect for that, Wayne. It shows the level of depth that you've worked on yourself, because you always know someone that's dug deep into their own soul is someone that's truthful with themselves. It's the most clear indicators. I'm like, that's who I want to be around, because then it's truthful.
Thanks,
you know,
man.
we have we both still have the dialogues in our head. It'll be the rest of our life to unwind that, but you can definitely see the honesty. And I think that characteristic is just, I hope people realize how powerful and how we can indicate who do we want to be around. It's one of the most powerful things to see, because guys that aren't like that, I'm probably not hanging with, you know what I mean? Because you don't get to anything real.
It's not only for, you know, to inspire somebody else that I would behave that way. To be honest, it's selfish too, because each time I take off a layer, life gets that much more real, but that much greater as well. Even through the bad points, like the more vulnerable you are, the more juice there is to squeeze from this thing called life. And and the more helpful and useful you can be to each other. And really, at the end of the day, I believe that's kind of what it's all about, is helping each other. So.
Totally. And I think lately, when that whole mentality has caused me to think, holy shit, I've arrived. So it's a weird, like I was like you a lot, and I still am, where it's like, yeah, go, go, go. But the thing is, there's something lately is that what you're describing to me, I relate to, is I feel like I've arrived, like not in an egotistical state or even a performance state. It's like, once you realize what you're talking about, we're the contentment of who we really are today, that we have people in our life that love us. It's like, that's it. Like, it's the most simple thing to feel like we've already won the fucking game. We've won the game. And now it's, let's go play. And so that's the mentality that, like, I'll always be driven, dude. Like, I'm always going to be, I've got this massive thing that I got to just deal with in my soul called this burning passion and energy. And I got to give it all away. But it's cool to hear what you're saying. It's like, it's not about anything else. Like, it feels like you've arrived into some place. Like, do you relate to that at all?
I do. You know, it's funny. I was, you have young kids, so you've seen Frozen, the movie Frozen. I was in a group meeting yesterday. I'm in a group called YPO, Young Presidents Organization. Yeah. And we were in our monthly forum meeting, and we were sort of talking a bit about abundance, and also, you know, when you stop trying so hard, it works. Like, I've got the honor of trying to moderate the group, actually. So I'm dealing with these very high powered CEOs, and I came in like I would in a staff meeting, and I was trying to run a tight agenda and make sure they got the value they bought, and as a volunteer, as a member of the team, but you know, who had been asked to do this. And for the first few months, maybe 6 months, I had been trying to run it and make sure that we stayed in the lines, and we colored in the lines, and we delivered the agenda, and we got everything we said, so that people would give me a high rating, and then they would be happy with their experience, which only matters to me because I care about their experience. Anyway, so
totally get it.
We did our deep dive in New York City a few weeks back. We did our retreat, and yesterday they said that, who is this new Wayne? This is Zen Wayne. I actually crossed my feet and started, mock meditating and let them just have that fun to their heart's content. Ended up being that the group took over managing itself.
There you go.
And so we were in a bathroom break. One of the guys comes in. He's like, "Who is this new Wayne?" And I said, "Well, you got young kids. You've seen the movie Frozen.
Let it go.
Let it go. Let it go."
Yeah, that's so true, dude.
So
that's such a good lesson, man. That's we literally do a podcast just on that moment of letting things flow. You know what I mean? And I get it, man. Like, we try to control every single thing, but we got to leave room for magic.
Yeah.
And that's something I always got to remember, being such a strategist and such a business. And you see this, it's like, if I did this, you play the long game, right? If I do this 15 steps later, I'm going to get this. Like, that's just how you roll with that kind of brain you have. But there's sometimes but you don't leave room for magic.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's kind of what you're doing. It's
and
like,
you can hit a 7 or 8 that way, maybe even a 9. You struggle real hard to get from
Yeah. It's a grind.
10 only happens when you let it go.
Dude, I think we just got a real good clip for marketing this podcast right there. 10 only happens when you let it go. Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful, man. Like, it's funny. I haven't talked to you in a long time, and I'm like, this guy's real good shit. Like, I've known you for a long time, and we never actually dug deep into a conversation. We've been talking all kinds of stuff, but so tell me a couple questions here. I'm going to jump into some questions. Give me 2 people who have influenced your life.
My grandmother is the first one. She's my rock. She's a absolutely ferocious 82-pound, 4 foot nothing Irish Catholic grandmother, 91 years old. She's my rock, my everything. She taught me, how to work my ass off. I would be in the yard working, and she brought me to church, which played a role too, an important role. I wouldn't say that I'm religious, but I'm definitely very, very, very spiritual. And a lot of my beliefs were informed by some of those stories and experiences, although I've got a broader approach to it now. And she's, to this day, my guru, my consultant. For her real life soap opera is my business life. And so she's my number one consultant that I update on what's happening with this investor and this team member and this vendor and this lawsuit. And she's 91 years old. She knows it all cold. And she's challenging me and she's pushing me and she's saying, no, don't trust that one. And she's very spiritual as well. So she kind of has an instinctual feel that I trust in. She's got a lot of premonitions, a lot of freaky weird stuff has happened over the years where awesome, she reads my mind from great distances. So she's number one in my life for sure. Yeah.
Amazing. What's a compliment you always get? Weird question, eh?
Yeah. I don't know. I think people say I have great hair, number one.
What?
No, I have no hair.
Bald brother.
Yeah. That is actually a common running joke. But I think that probably people talk about my generosity a lot, you know, and that's evolved too. Sometimes you can be generous for credit, which is wrong-headed. You can be
such good awareness, man. Such
you know, like awareness. That's you know, like, what are you trying to fill? Are you trying to give time, love, energy, money away so that you get love back? If there's a reciprocal expectation, you're trying to fill a void that'll never get full. And I think that I started out that way, trying to get love. I felt I was probably not picked up very much as a baby and touched a lot. So I've got some early childhood stuff maybe that I've hung on to that hopefully I've since released, but who knows? It's a constant process, I think.
100%, man.
But I think I was, very much kind of like looking to give in order to get, without admitting that for years. And
you can hide behind that, Wayne. Like it's
like an identity.
It's like always buying a gift for someone, or always like, dude, my entire base of my business comes from the same story called blow your freaking client's mind. Why did I do that? Because if I don't give 50,000 times value, I might not be enough. So if you look at the core of where my whole business philosophy comes from, was out of the same vein of like controlling the outcome.
Yeah.
And like we talked about, there leaves no room for magic, and you don't feel satisfied. It's like a fucking drug addict. That feeling like you always have to perform. That's been a huge over the last few years for me. And I just wanted to share that as well. I think we get it.
And did you feel like maybe you had this experience where, did you feel as if it didn't matter how much you gave, you were never quite the cool kid? Like it's not actually that attractive to be so desperately giving and giving and giving.
It's something you have to, like, I grew up in a very rough environment too, man. Like I didn't feel loved, so you don't get that. So, but when I was loved, I did something cool, or I did something. And then I'm like, okay, if I do this, I feel love. But we didn't know what love was. And that's the crazy thing. We think this buzz of people going, you're cool, and accepting you is love. It's not.
It's surface level.
It becomes like, and that's why performance mentality, A-type personalities, that we have that built in, because we know we can get popular by performing. We could, like, why do you think half the fucking society wants to be on stage right now? Like everyone wants to be a fucking speaker.
Yeah. Love.
You know how good that feels when you get a roaring reaction? Like, but if you don't have the heart where you're satisfied inside your soul with nothing, then you're in a very dangerous place, because people can control you so easily. All it is like a little bit of guilt. You didn't quite meet the mark. And then you go, okay, I'll do more. And it's the most vulnerable, in a negative way, vulnerable place you can be, is to be a giver and having it as a condition to feel like you need something back.
And you give it all away and you feel depleted, and it's still never enough. And it's a vicious cycle. It's an eternal rat race. So
many people don't understand this, Wayne. It's cool to be able to kind of banter back and forth on it, because this is a huge one. It's so massive. And maybe it's just because of our story, but I just see the world this way. It's like, what happens if you just gave and let the universe figure it out for real? And because then you would have to, like, when are we enough? That's why that mentality of just being arrived, like, I've got it all already. Once you're there, the giving's more pure. It's like I used to buy my wife flowers, and then I realized I don't need her love, because I started loving myself. I stopped buying her anything. It was like 6 months. I did nothing. And I realized all that was because I wanted her to love me back and perform. Then when I started giving her flowers again, it was real. It was so real. So wasn't
as transactional. Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't like, hey, I'm your man, I'm the best. It's just like, you know what? I really thought of you today. And just because of that, I knew you liked these flowers. It wasn't to feel like I was the good guy.
You know what? My wife actually sent me a note yesterday thanking me for some flowers I brought back. I've been traveling a bit more than I should of late. because the football season just ended. So I spike up a bit on travel. But anyway, I picked her up some flowers. I saw the beautiful flowers in the airport and I grabbed them. And she wrote me a note yesterday saying, hey, I don't know if I even properly thanked you for those flowers, which are, 6 to 7 days or whatever. I didn't even notice. Honest to God, I was like, I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe you did. Probably you did.
Because you weren't looking for the reward of the flower.
That's right.
We're looking for the buzz because you feel like it's already there.
That's right. And it's funny you say that to me today about the flowers, because that was my experience yesterday. Like, I think you did, but I wasn't.
There's little moments of like, oh, it didn't impact me.
Didn't know. I mean, it's not. I appreciate if you do, and I thanked her for saying thank you, but it wasn't to get a thank you. It wasn't to get anything. It was just to brighten her day. And she said, I walk by them and they make me smile every time. They bring color to the house, and I really appreciate them. So
cool. And that's when it's like, because if you were like that and you were looking for it, how lame would it be for her to be like, how do I thank him? Because he's looking for that.
Yeah.
There's that feeling of like, I should probably say thank you because he's going to be a little bit upset. It's almost reminds me of opening the door for someone at the mall. And then if they don't say thank you, you're pissed at them.
Yeah.
What the frick is that? It's like, I need a wave if I'm going to let you in the front. If I'm driving, I need you to wave at me if I let you in. It just really shows the character of that. You're trying to gain something from being nice. So what a great conversation, Wayne. It's good to have this out there, man. People need to hear this.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. And it's, as you say, been so long. I think we both keep evolving. So it's fun to vibe and bounce things around.
Love it, man.
Yeah.
So is there anyone in your life you want to meet?
Alive or dead?
Yeah, let's go alive.
Okay.
Dead's way too easy. It's endless options. Like,
there's a lot of good options if you include the spirits that might or might not be roaming around. But if you go with the ones that I can see, theoretically, it's a great question because there's some great ones. I think for me, probably Branson. Branson. I'm looking over at the bookshelf.
Yeah, nice.
Probably Branson. I think I've taken so much from him. I'd like to thank him for that. A lot of the stuff we put in at Link Energy around the service philosophy comes from what he did in other commoditized spaces with Virgin's Mobile and Virgin Airlines. Just wowing the guest, wowing the customer, thanking them, little small things that don't cost much. Huge. Challenging to scale the concept, but important that you scale the concept because it's simply just treating other people with kindness and appreciating them. And so I got that from him. I also got this kind of crazy long-haired guy on a kite surfing board.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I can see that. Yeah, and, in my head.
So I'll be, barefoot somewhere in the hills of Jamaica and happier than a lamb several times a year, absorbing that energy and trying to get closer to Bob Marley, who's another mentor of mine through his music. And
there's one I didn't see coming.
Yeah, cool. That big influence in my life. But you canceled out the dead guy category, so I'm gonna go with Branson on that. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome, man. Awesome. So if you were to sit down and talk to a new founder in a business, if you were to talk to like a new entrepreneur, a business owner, and they come and go, Wayne, give me some advice. I'm just getting going. What would it be?
It's a marathon, not a sprint. Take care of yourself.
Wow.
And take care of your people.
So patience. You get ready for the painful grind. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And like, don't be pulling these, I lived on the road 26, 27 days a month for years. Yeah, a good month might be 15 days, the extreme months were 27, 26, and an average probably hovered around 10 or 12. And, only a couple of years ago did I, make a pact with my partner that we would hold it to 5 days a month travel, so that we could build families, so that we could have healthy lifestyles, so that we could last, through this marathon. We're not looking to, build something and flip it and sell it. Now, if you're in Silicon Valley or in a similar ecosystem, then you're like, oh, listen, I'm just going to build, sell, get out. So I'll burn myself. But I think that that's still wrong-headed in that environment, because there's a whole lot of pivots, as they like to call them, ahead of you. There's a whole lot of dips in the road. And if you don't have any gas in the tank, there's an African proverb that says, when your fire goes dark, the predators come. And you need gas in the tank, because you're going to hit bumps. You're going to hit threats. That's a reality in building a business. And you need to take care of yourself and make sure that your people are taking care of themselves, or else you won't have the stamina, or you'll be so low on mental and emotional energy that you'll make poor choices that don't accord with your values. And
so good.
Yeah.
So good. Well said, man. Well said, man. That's so good. When your fire goes out, the predators come. So if you actually think about that, it's almost like, so this fire, this is why alignment is so critical, because when that marathon is halfway and you're doing something from just basic going, this will be the best way to make money, like there's no heart and passion, you won't make it. You know what I mean? And that's when it's like, that's why alignment, clarity, self-awareness, personal understanding, like all of this stuff has to be like, you're going to go the wrong direction.
Yep. Yeah, you will. And you won't see it because your head's down and you're working so hard you can't even breathe. You can't even look up and breathe and see what's going on and where you're at and who's around you.
So tell me a time you pivoted because your fire's going out and you needed to make a pivot and you knew that you're out of alignment. If not, that's fine. I'm just curious to see, because this is I think a lot of people would be able to understand that and understand it. A lot of people wonder if they're in the right direction, right? And they're too scared to make a move and bet on themselves.
Yeah. So D&E is our first business that Steve and myself co-founded. Steve is the guy that actually started it and had the courage to start it and pulled me in. So we're 50-50. We moved it into my basement, and it grew and grew and grew. So it's growing along, and we've expanded into the United States in 2011, and then we expanded into England and Ireland in 2014, and now we're researching France and Australia, and we're just going to go conquer the world, right?
Yeah.
And we're an energy broker, so we resell other people's products, energy supplier products, specifically natural gas and electricity. So we're kind of beholden to them. Our role in the market is threefold. We provide education. A lot of customers don't know they have a choice. If they do, they just make it on pure price. They don't read the fine print. So like buying a car, they can really get burnt if they don't know what they're doing. Yeah. So education is a big piece. Convenience is the second piece. Like an insurance broker, we'll get you all the quotes, we'll put them in front of you, make it easy, sign right here, painless, very, very simple to deal with. Even after you've signed and you've got questions, you don't have to get routed around through some 16 different billing persons to get an answer. You can call our person, they're your spokesperson, right? And leverage is the third. We have a high transaction volume, so the pizza shop on the corner doesn't get the same price. But more importantly, even besides price, it is a commodity. It's rather tight. It's service. We'll be able to get you the service you need post-transaction because of the volume of clients that we have. So that's D&E. So D&E is humming along, growing and growing and growing in every direction. And we keep bumping into little situations with the people above us, the suppliers whose products we're selling. And we're having experiences where, let's say my client has 30 commercial properties. He sells one, their billing department automatically issues an early termination charge, $6,000, but he's got 29 other buildings and they're going to renew in 3 months. And I call the supply company, go, you guys sell a commodity. You can't, this is a multi-million-dollar per annum account. You can't bill him $6,000. He's going to leave you. Yeah. Like he's just about at term. He's going to renew the other 29 sites with you. Waive the ETF. They can't figure that out. They just can't get their heads around that. Now, not only is that irrational, but I don't think it's right because he's been a loyal client. You've made a lot of margin on him. And he sold a building, and that's what he does. He buys and sells buildings. So you got to expect that. More importantly than that, though, they swipe some deals from us. They, we work up a big bid for a national retailer across Canada, and we bring them in as the lead prospective supplier because they've got the national footprint, and they end up, the client gets close to them, and the client ends up calling them because they panic over the Christmas break. They can't find Steve, my partner's number, and they call the people in Toronto. We're in Montreal, and they say, look, I read on the news, I saw this, that, the gas is going to jump. I want to execute this thing. We've been working on it for a few months. I want to close it now. And they fly a rep out from Toronto and they close the deal and cut the broker out. That was year one, actually. Yeah. Month one, month two, they cut us right out of that. And we were all in on that brokerage business. We had literally all our life savings into it.
Yeah.
I had gotten a student loan because I was admitted to law school, and I dumped it into payroll commissions the next day. So we were literally strapped. We were credit cards maxed, Steve hit the ground a little faster than me. I had like 10 grand left. I met him in a parking lot and split it with him. 5 grand to him, 5 grand to me. Let's keep holding on. So we're tight, and we were working that account ourselves. You never forget that, It's kind of dirty pool. And it stopped happening as much because our leverage grew and they didn't want to mess with us, but you still knew that you were sort of just dealing with, if you didn't have leverage, they probably wouldn't treat you right. And so it was very transactional in that sense. Yeah. So I think the pivot was to decide to start our own energy supply business, Link Energy. We had looked at it as a money-making opportunity over the years and said, oh, look, there's more margin here. There's better asset value. There's more control over the decision-making, and we can ensure better outcomes for our salespeople, for ourselves, for our clients, if we controlled more of the vertical value chain. So that's where we started. The initial money motivation was like, whatever, it's not worth it. It's not worth the risk, the headache, the extra effort. We'll just expand it in the US. Forget it. So we did that. And then we looked at it again when we were having those experiences where we were having ethical kind of concerns. And, we still thought that the risk and the investment was, and the effort was going to be too much. Ended up expanding into Europe around that point in time. When we really, really got serious about starting a supply company was this concept around using the energy transaction to give back. So thinking about how many millions and billions of little tiny transactions. I was staring at a light bulb actually, somewhere around approaching my 30th birthday, going like, what the hell am I doing with my life? Feeling existential. Yeah. And I had been selling energy since I was 20 years old. It was my first job right out of school, and couldn't afford university, got a straight commission job, ended up doing well at it, got moved around the country, and ended up national manager of sales, left to start D&E with Steve because I didn't feel like my core values fit the companies I had worked in. And then now here I am again running into, I'm living my core values here, but my partner and I are not totally culturally aligned. I may as well start a company in that segment. And I'm sort of feeling that wanting to happen, but I'm scared of it. So your question was about pivoting when you're scared. I was scared. Yeah. So only thing that made me do it, God's honest truth, was staring at the light bulb thinking, there's a little wheel in there that's turning all the time. And each wheel is 5 pennies of, transaction. Yeah. Selling a kilowatt hour. And if we could take a tiny, 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 tiny sliver of value off of every turn of the wheel, it turns so many times that adds up fast. And if we take that value and we direct it to social and environmental impact in our own backyard, we can lift up our neighbors. And that's what we ended up being. So our hearts were lit on fire by that concept.
Beautiful.
And my partner is a beautiful man. He went along with my crazy ride and he got into it. He loved it. We'd been volunteering a lot with our brokerage, and we sort of knew that there was this universal feeling to want to help each other out. And if we could give that feeling to our customers, they actually give you credit for it, and they get excited about it, and they want to come join into your movement. So that's what caused Link Energy.
It's almost like that pivot lit that fire that was dying out.
Yes, the fire was dying out. I was getting a bit jaded, and this concept of using the transaction to give back lit my heart on fire. And the flame has been burning bright since. And it's been a tough road, that road, sure. A lot of bumps, a lot of major challenges, really scary stuff, a lot of tears shed along the way, a lot of people threatening me along the way. And just like, these adversarial things popping up that were meant to teach me something. And so it's been a great,
and your backstory, you rely on your resilience. It takes a lot. It takes a lot to be publicly bigger. You know what I mean by that? Ghosting a machine's easy, but if you put your head up and say, I'm going to do this, like that's why people are scared of success. I think and that's why I think that if we can embrace the backstory and actually realize this is actually your strength, like you can take a hit. And I feel like guys like you and I feel like we're in this world, we can take a hit for someone else. That's how I look at it. Like I'll step up and I'll be real. You want to make fun of me? Make fun of me. Go ahead. Yeah. Put me down. But I'm going to tell you right now, someone behind me is going to go, I'm going to fucking do that too.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can take the hit.
I've been doing that since kindergarten, taking the hit for the new kid
Yeah.
or whoever. Yeah.
And it's cool to align your business to that.
Yeah.
You see what like, it's really cool. So,
Yeah.
so another question here. Can you be successful without working on growing yourself personally?
Absolutely not. In my opinion, in my humble opinion. I mean, I don't think it's worth living if you just go, okay, I'm like you, and this is also new for me. So I think you have to feel whole, and I don't like, this is something I'm still working on. I think you have to feel whole and complete and abundant. I've been reading a lot of Wayne Dyer, and, you know, I know that we've talked a little bit about, you know, trying to fill a bottomless void. I know that I have to feel whole, complete, accepting of myself. And ironically, or axiomatically, I don't know what the word is. I should find instead of a $10 word, I should find a 10-penny word. But, you know, so actually the way that Wayne said it was, he talks about like the yin and the yang, the serpent eating its tail. It's like, yes, you're whole and you're complete and you're all that you need to be. And at the same time, you're constantly growing and you're constantly changing and you're constantly evolving, and that's a necessary state in order to maintain equilibrium. So chaos 100%. And order, and inside chaos is order and disorder. And so I'm wrapping my head around that sort of a Tao symbol.
I understand it completely. Like I was saying, you got to embrace the dark side of you. You got to embrace the dark side, because we always run from that side of us. And it's like that, there is that yin and yang. It's in so many different analogies, but I 100%, I think that flow happens when you are absolutely content and self acceptance of where you are with an incredible vision for the future. There's this, I think that is the law of attraction. That is abundance. That's everything. It's like, where am I not content today in my life? Well, if we can get that figured out, and then I have a clear vision, or even just a big vision of the future of what I think is coming. Like, it's not like you're living in the past or living in the present. It's just like this beautiful dance of self-acceptance with massive vision. I think that's where we see like miraculous things happen.
Yeah. And I think I know I have often struggled with being one or the other, you know. Totally. I'm either feeling, how can I be content and still want, but not want, but hope, but not hope, but
yeah, exactly.
See, how can I see more and yet be happy? Like, how do you balance these? And literally that's how it's the challenge is the answer.
We're getting our monk hats on now, man.
Yeah.
So the question was,
am I still in the office? Oh my God.
Yeah. I'm like, wow, man, I was on a mountain there for a second. But the truth is, and I'm obviously 100% aligned with what you're saying too, is a success. You cannot be successful without working on yourself. I would say it's about the business owner. It's about the person running the business. Every single thing comes back to the human. No much self-sabotage is out there. They can learn everything they can in business, but if they don't figure out their own shit, they're going to blow the thing up, or they're going to complicate the shit out of things. They're going to take it in the wrong direction. They're going to do things for people when they need to cut those people out. And all these different behavioral things, I think, is how you do it. It's not like, so I've been trying to connect those dots for people for a long time. Like, hey, what's the best strategy? I'm like, I'll give you 50. It doesn't mean you're going to do anything with it, because you're going to be you. Let's figure out who you are. So love that, man. So here's another question. What really moves you to tears, Wayne?
And you got good questions.
Well, we're going deep now. I got the game now. I can see who you are. I'm like, this is good.
I try to give you so I got to remember now the last time I cried, because that's going to be the most honest answer, right? Well, I lost my dog. I'm very close with animals. I got my little girl right here, actually.
Oh, beauty.
Baby.
What, is that a Mastiff?
Yeah, Bull Mastiff, Jacqueline.
Oh, man. So cool.
So Jackson in the office here with me, her brother passed away. So that hurt a lot. But I think when you said moves you to tears, it was probably more on the positive side.
Yeah.
And that's usually giving still in a more healthy way than maybe I did in earlier years. So last Saturday we gave a couple hundred families food for the holiday period.
I saw that on your Facebook there, or LinkedIn or whatever. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So that got me teary-eyed. I didn't outright cry. I wasn't alone. Sometimes I'd like to be able to cry in public more easily. and not hold back and be a little bit more true to that. But I held it back a bit, but it's there.
Yeah, but it moved you,
But yeah, beautiful things do too. Lately, I noticed like a movie or a show can move me to cry when I see, like this real positive human, like really well done cinema or media can actually create that emotional feel. Like yeah, I think beauty and kindness, whether I'm directly experienced or even just observing. Yeah.
So next question is clarity or forward motion more important in life?
Oh man, that's like
that's a good one, eh?
That's like yin and yang almost.
That's right.
Yeah, it's like I'm going to go forward motion because look, I'm a football player. I'm a salesman, door to door, built my business that way. If you're moving forward, you can refine along the way.
Love that, man. That's my philosophy too. I think there's a time for clarity though, and the time for forward motion can gain clarity, I think too, right?
Yeah, how else do you learn? You learn and iterate. It's like sailing a boat. Totally. You don't ever sail in a straight line. You tack and tack and tack and adjust to the conditions.
So life experience or education?
Life experience.
Hands down, right?
Yeah.
It's cool coming from you. You got a law degree and you went through the whole schooling thing, but without even a flinch, it's life.
Yeah. And I just applied to do an executive ed at Harvard, and I'll probably do a PhD, God willing, if I can get the time to, on social capitalism. And I'll keep doing, academic education because I like it. And I found it useful, but it's nothing compared to life experience.
Totally, man. Totally. Now this is something cool because I know you're an entrepreneur and I know you've got a million things that you could do in your head, and you probably have to discipline yourself like crazy to stay focused on the mission sometimes because you got a creative mind. Mm-hmm. I want you to tell me what's a business that you have an idea about. You're like, if I had time, if I had this business that I've got right now running on its own, this is what my next endeavor would be.
So there's two. I don't know how to pick between the two, but I know there's these two biggies. And they're correlated. So the first one I've been thinking a lot about that I think is probably my next phase. Oh, are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay,
can hear you.
So the first one is a angel investment firm or a venture capital firm that's focused on social enterprises. That's focused on B Corp or B Corp like companies that want to do good in the world, that use business as a force for good. That's how I want to spend the rest of my life, is working on that concept. And I think as an investor advisor, I can have a broader impact, but I need to prove my credibility and demonstrate that the model really works in a boring commoditized space like gas and electricity. Mm-hmm. Then from there, I can actually share that, share what I learned along the way with other people, and apply it to a bunch of other not so sexy industries. And I didn't invent that at all. I got tons of inspiration from, Muhammad Yunus, Grameen Bank, microfinance, Ben & Jerry's, Tom's Shoes, Craigslist. Like there's a whole bunch of awesome social enterprises that go way back. And I just want to keep spreading that movement. So as an investor, but then I think just like you, Ben, so I'm thinking about this, I'm playing out this business in my mind. I'm going, well, it's not going to work unless the founder is really properly supported, and then the team as a result gets the right type of human support. So what I probably need to do first is create some sort of technology-enabled coaching application system with video chat, whereby you can get the benefit of either psychotherapy or business coaching or life coaching, whatever you want to call it, but in a scalable way and in a way that you can pass on to your team and even your family. So like I'm toying around with different, tools that are tracking my personal, like how many times did I meditate and jog and eat well and so on and things like that. Measuring performance, and then incorporating reading and learning audiobooks and so on. So it's still a little bit of a hairy mess, but it's probably a software supported by high level service, high touch service, and maybe sort of a decentralized network of professionals, life coaches, therapists, etc., that focus on that human, and probably beyond the entrepreneur themselves, probably to something they can pass down to their entire team. There's a lot more things targeted to guys and gals in my position, the entrepreneur or the CEO, I've had trouble finding something I can pass on to my team in terms of
totally
support. Yeah,
totally. Yeah, totally. And the challenge with all of that is what I find is I even got a question here. Can you help someone that doesn't want to be helped? And that's where this hiccup comes in. Cause you're like, look, but it's like a human that like, that's where it's challenging, right?
It's like you said, you have to affect the human. The rest is strategy, you know.
Yeah, everyone knows how to lose weight, eat less, and exercise more. But like, it's like, so whatever that business is, it can't just be that.
Yeah.
Like, it's got to be something else. You know what I mean?
It's got to be psychological, and you got to make it easy for them to get little wins. So like I have a calendar, old school calendar that and I have Crayola markers, and I give myself little stamps when I do good stuff. I don't know if I have one of the recent ones. I send this out to my fellow EOers and YPOers and try to inspire them to do the same thing. And I give myself a little stamp. So I'm thinking, well, most people want this to be technological, but just simple little stamps where at the end of the month, I can add it all up and feel proud or adjust if I didn't hit what I needed to hit, and just kind of do personal management. So that's I don't know if that's going to work there.
Yeah. I see a calendar with,
bunch of stamps, and then at the top, I tally it. So how many times did you meditate? How many times did you work out? How many books did you read? How many times did you go to therapy? These are the things, and everybody's got how many times did you eat junk food? How many times did you consume alcohol? Those things that limit you. These are the things that I decided to measure in my little scorecard. And everybody can pick their own, right? Yeah. Whatever gives you energy. Because if you've got positivity and energy, then you can employ strategy. But if you're not feeling good in your heart and your mind,
100%, man, 100%.
You could be the smartest person in the room, stuck to the couch. You're going nowhere.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in measurement, but I'm also a big believer in letting go of those measurements at the exact same time. It's that yin and yang, because you get so hung up on the measurements that, again, we're not giving ourselves room to have something magical, intuitive, and spiritual happen to yourself because you're so measured. So it's like that. It's always a disclaimer. It's like, I love measurements, but then it's like where it goes. So then because I can move into performance. I'm like, I fucking crushed my measurements today. And it's like, yeah, you're kind of missing it though. The measurements is more of a self-awareness thing than a performance thing, right?
Yeah.
So it's always a disclaimer.
For me, it's when I go on a vacation, and also when I get to the weekend, I drop like as much pressure on myself. I kind of chunk myself to say, okay, weekday, Wayne, you know that you've got to output brain energy during the workday, so you've got to input healthy stuff and exercise and stuff, because it's gonna fuel you.
Fuel you, yeah.
Weekend, you can kind of take it a little bit more ad hoc. If you're doing some brain work, then probably you need a run, and you need a healthy meal. If you're with family, you can eat a poutine. Go ahead.
Yeah,
you're in Montreal.
Totally,
yeah,
I had when I was there with your company, I had I don't know who was that took me out. I can't remember. What's his name? I
know I was there, I think, and maybe Jean-Marc was there.
Oh yeah, Steve. No. So who else? No, it was not with you guys. It was I had a poutine. What's his name took me out? He was a frat guy all the time.
Edward Drew.
It's I don't know. Anyways, yeah, poutine, man. I was the best poutine I think I've ever had right there in Montreal. So good.
Yeah, you gotta live. You gotta live.
Yeah. And it's true. Like I have a relationship coach that's become a good friend of mine. She speaks at a lot of my different events and stuff. And she says, if you're gonna eat a piece of cake, fucking eat it.
Yeah.
Like, don't sit there and eat it and be like, oh, like, it's like, just eat the cake, and just give yourself permission just to go for it. Sometimes, we're so hung up on high performance, be masters at everything. Sometimes eating a piece of cake's cool.
And you got to know yourself, right? If you're that person that will latch on to that performance metric and you'll go overboard, then you're that person that needs to eat the cake. And if you're that person that just will eat one cake and have the whole entire, one piece and have the whole cake and then do it again tomorrow, then you need a bit of the other side, right? So it's always
super custom, right?
It's always sailing. It's always tacking and adjusting. And so measuring helps you to know. Yeah. And then some people really shouldn't measure. I totally agree.
So I think what we're saying is self-awareness is the ultimate.
Yeah.
Because it's really so specific.
What do you need? Yeah.
That's why we look at someone else. If we have an insecurity, we'll look at someone and go, oh, they know the answer. I don't. But their friggin' answer could be perfect for them. They don't know context. They don't know your life.
And that's why psychotherapy, like a lot of times you get advice from friends and family members, but they're not trained to be a neutral, objective, third-party expert observer and an expert on you. They're trying to help you from the best place in their heart, but they're experts on themselves. So they're going to tell you what's good for them and what they need. But they don't necessarily have even the self-awareness to sit, listen, observe, and understand enough about you to try to ask you the questions to get you to know what you need.
100%.
And that's all the difference in the world. Because we're all our own, crazy bunch of flavors in this place, right? So you got to know, you really got to know yourself. To thine own self be true.
So Wayne, I always ask the guest on my shows to ask, because I want to learn too, is if you have a question for me, I always ask, because I think there's something about getting questioned. If you had a question for me, you can go ahead and shoot a question at me, and I'll answer. Well,
man, I would have probably loved to flip every question you sent me back to you, because they were good and they were fun, and I'd love to hear your answers on them. But let me pick probably my favorite, or search for another one that I might prefer. Give me a second. I'm a bit of a melodramatic guy, so tell me about the hardest experience you've ever had and what beauty came out of it.
It's a hard question. I've had a lot of hard experiences in my life, from streets, drugs, to being used and abused. Okay, here's the one that's probably, I've been impacted by so much pain in my life at the beginning. I think the time when my wife sat me down and said she wanted a divorce. So there's a lot of business challenges and stuff, but that one's an earthquake. Crack. And it's like, because I was so blind to what was going on, thinking that I was doing it all for them and the very people that I was doing everything in my mind at the time of who I was, but that was performance and all this stuff needed to be worked out. When she said, Ben, I'm tired of following you around in this life. And it cracked me open. I bawled like a baby sitting there on her feet, just cried as I fucked up. And I thought I was doing it all for her. So that emotionally has shaped me to realize I had it all. And it wasn't the house. It wasn't this life I was trying to give them of independent wealth where we can travel and do all these cool things. And it had nothing to do with that. And so that shaped me, and it will shape me for the rest of my life. And that's where I feel like I had already won, and I still was trying to win, but I had already won. And it was just putting a lot of pressure on my wife and kids. And at the core of who I am, like, I remember leaving rehab after 365 days of being on pretty much a lockdown situation. It lived on a ranch where you did work detail and you did like classes, and it was like just locked in this area. And I left that feeling alive, and life was very simple. And it was this: if I had a wife that was just in love with me, and if I had kids that were into me, that's all I want. It was the most simplest thing. And I remembered that after I had almost blew this life up chasing what I thought I wanted. So for the rest of my life, I'll help people gain clarity and overcome themselves forever because of these things. So that's probably the biggest thing in the last 10 years that have really shaped me.
That's cool, man. Thank you for sharing that. As a guy that got married August 31st of this year, I think that's an important thing to hear. And I think everything happens for a reason, and we're having this conversation for a reason. So that might be one of many reasons that I needed to talk to you today, because I'm blessed with this amazing wife that just entered my life. So thank you for sharing that cautionary tale.
I'm the same way. I ask the dark questions. I love the dark questions. Like, where's the pain? What did you overcome? It's like, I just want to learn from that, because I feel like the learning is there. Yeah. Don't tell me when you climb Mount Everest. Great. Tell me when you fell off at Mount Everest. I want to hear that story. So honestly, man, this is better than I ever thought it could have been, Wayne. I feel like we have so aligned in our values and in stories, and truly appreciate you being on the show, man. Really do. Yeah. And thank you for asking me. It's an honor to be included, and hopefully some stuff that we said, hits somebody at the right point in time. I think that's what it's all about. And if everyone does this again, I'm really happy to. And more importantly, I'd love to get the screen out of the way and buy a meal next time I'm in town. Totally, man. Well, we'll shut her down there. And thanks again, Wayne. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Ben. Take care.